Want to call to order the Finance Committee meeting for May 7th, 2018. Item number 1, please.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes of April the 16th, 2018.
Reviewing of the minutes, are there any additions or corrections?
Move for approval. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Item number 1 passed. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments April 12th, 2018 through May 2nd, 2018.
Do we have a report from the Purchasing Committee?
Yes, Purchasing Committee did meet this afternoon. It did review claims, and we found everything in order. And I appreciate staff answering all our questions. And I would make a motion to recommend approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the claims list. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 2 passed. Item number 3, please.
Consider approval of the Groupon Merchant Agreement for marketing and promotional services at River Country Family Water Park, or take other necessary action.
I don't see Mr. Wilkinson, so Mr. Miller.
Yes, as you see in your packet, this is a marketing opportunity, and because of the way we're structured right now, it needs to come through council. It's a way to promote the water park to a broader area and a broader audience, and we recommend approval.
Is there an extra cost, or is this budgeted?
Yes, it's part, the water park is part of, has its own enterprise funds. They do have their money to market themselves.
Mr. City Manager,
Yes.
Brooke is here.
Well, if you have questions, you can address them to Brooke. Otherwise, we recommend approval.
Brooke, do you think this is going to get the name of the water park out there farther and get more people coming here?
Absolutely. We really look at the Tulsa area and just all of northeast Oklahoma and Groupon. We did this a few years ago, I think 2013. Okay. It's a great campaign, a great marketing tool. It's a cost share, so we signed an agreement with Groupon. They offer the discount, and then they pay us out.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any further discussions? Roll call, please.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 3 passed. Item number 4, please.
Consider approval of ordinance number 4044A, amending the City of Muskogee Code of Ordinances, Chapter 58, Parks and Recreation, Section 58-21, Fees Generally, authorizing the city manager to establish or modify certain fees, providing for repealer, severability, and setting an effective date, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Stewart?
Yeah, if you'll remember, when we redid our fines or fee structure last year, we also discussed the need to have the manager to have the flexibility for some of the enterprise funds that are covered by the Park and Recreation Department. This ordinance is just a follow-up of the fees that we passed last time. This will take, the manager will, if he redoes one of these fees, he will have to notify council within 10 days of adoption. I'm assuming that would be in his weekly report or how he communicates that. But this really is set up for the new events, the programs. It has to be regulated this way because of supply costs. Instructor fees are an example, one of the reasons why they need this flexibility. In researching this, we also discovered that several other communities are doing it just exactly the same way. So this really just gives the manager that, that authorization by approving this ordinance. Answer any questions.
Does this set up the city manager to build, just say, I want to raise it up $2 for like the water park or something?
No.
And then, but you still got to bring it before us?
Yeah, no, this is for special events and activities and programs. The rental of facilities like the Scout House, the fees, the admission charges at the water park, for instance, those are things that are approved in Schedule A, and those would stay the same way. This is for just the exact same thing we just did. The Groupon wouldn't have to come before the council and take 3 or 4 weeks in a process next time. it would be a way, because that is basically a discount, so it's a different price. So under the current structure, to do those kinds of marketing things, you want our enterprise funds to act a little bit like a business, but they don't really have that flexibility to do that. So the day-to-day things of rental of the pavilions and that kind of stuff is still all on Schedule A. This is for special events, activities, and programs.
Yeah, it doesn't change anything that we've already approved in Schedule A.
And I would think that allows you the flexibility to be able to make a deal instead of going, well, I'll get back with you in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Move for approval.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any further questions?
I guess I want to follow up on Councilor Hall's question because I guess what I'm lacking is what is an example of special event, because I want the city manager to have the flexibility to be able to raise or designate those fees, but at the same time, without us incurring the wrath of what may happen if those fees are too high for the community.
One of the examples that Brooke and Mark Wilkerson gave me was if somebody wanted to bring a motorcycle type event here, in that we needed to compete with some other community, we need to have the flexibility to put that in place in a very rapid time instead of waiting to bring it to council, getting the other community or whoever we're working with or against to try to get that event in their community. It just gives us that flexibility to go ahead and do that. So, and the Butterfly Garden is another example.
And we'd still be notified 10 days in advance regardless.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. And importantly, like at the Swim and Fitness Center, if they come up with a new class tomorrow, how much are we going to charge for that? And how are we going to set that rate? You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's that kind of thing.
And then having an instructor availability. Maybe that instructor is available now, but not later. There's a lot of flexibility that needs to be had in that department.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes?
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 4 passed. Item number 5, please.
Consider approval of final payment for Muskogee Project Number 201-7023 Pollution Control Basket Screen to KBC Construction in the amount of $16,067.35, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee. The basket screen project at the raw sewage pump station is complete, in place, and this is the final payment. It was a successful project. The basket is in place, and you probably don't want me to describe what it's catching, but we recommend approval.
Catching debris, isn't it?
But it is catching it.
Yes.
How many stations do we have these baskets on?
This is in the main station coming into the plant, the raw water pump station. So everything goes to the other stations before it gets to this one.
I was just wondering if like we had them on individual pump stations or anything like that.
We don't on the smaller one, but when the new lift stations are put in place with the new contracts, they will have screens on them also, but the current ones do not.
Does this cover the price for the special plug that we had made? Did we have to plug a hole? Seems like we were going to have to do something.
Yeah, we plugged it in the installation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes?
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 5 passed. Item number 6, please.
Consider approval of the contract change order and final payment to Dirt Work Done Right, LLC, for the demolition contract 16756 CDBG 16, bid group 38, in the amount of $1,375, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Callahan?
Yes, thank you. This is a request for the change order and final payment under the Community Development Block Grant, and it was our bid group 38. We had a total of 19 structures that the total cost ended up being $108,756.50, and that averaged at $5,724 a structure. All of the properties have received their final inspections. There are some that will possibly have some more grading once this weather clears up or continues to rain and settle, but they are always good to go back and clear up any of the properties that we ask them to, and they're continuing to do that as we hope for no more rain. But anyway, they have a change order on the contract extension due to the weather delays, and also there was some utility disconnects that had massive amounts of delays, but we have finally gotten that finished and get it cleared with the gas company. That's one of the most probably important ones to make sure is shut off, the gas meters removed. So this is a request for the change order and the final payment on the CDBG contract.
Well, there's some bigger structures in this. I noticed it's 5724, weren't we in the
There were
3,700 range before?
Well, there were, and now that we're bidding it at a per square footage,
Right.
we're counting outbuildings, any of the concrete square footage. So a lot of it, then there were a lot of 2 stories, a lot of the larger structures that then calculated.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 6 passed. Item number 7, please.
Consider approval of awarding the mowing contracts as follows. Base bid number 1 and number 2 and number 5 to SB Services. Base bid number 3 and number 4 to Grass Monkey. And the Turnpike mowing contract to D&D Ag Services, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee, it's mowing season, and these are our yearly contracts for the drainage ditches, the batfish, and we started last year towards the end of the mowing season, contracting the Turnpike to free up more of our forces within the city. And these are the bid contracts for that mowing for this year. And we recommend approval.
You have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 7 passed. Item number 8, please.
Consider approval authorizing the mayor to cast a ballot on behalf of the city of Muskogee for the OMAG Board of Trustees, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and if I may take a point of privilege, I'd like to ask that between these meetings that we have a timeout before we start the Public Works agenda to have a presentation for Economic Development Week, just to clear that up. That is between meetings. But as we address this agenda item, I want to point out that we do have this year, as part of our agreement with OMAG, as one of our major insurers, they've offered us a vote for their board of directors and their board of trustees. We haven't necessarily done that before, but we've added additional coverage with them, and with that comes these votes. So we'd like to delegate that responsibility to one person to research those candidates for that vote, and it seems that we'd like to recommend the mayor for that delegated authority.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 8 passed. Item number 9, please.
Consider approval to update the Muskogee 2020 strategic plan as discussed at the April 20th, 2018 special call council meeting, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, as you recall from our retreat, we looked through our strategic plan and we said there's a couple of things that we feel like are important and that we're already doing somewhat, but we want to address them and officially in our strategic plan as a document that we look at through the year to help tell us what to do. Those items we covered in the retreat, and they're in your packet before you, but the main thrust of those items would be towards housing development and adding to finding a way to add to our population base to Muskogee as a strategic item, and then on our infrastructure, singling out streets is an important part of our strategic plan, identifying areas of need and perhaps additional resources to address that need. So we propose adding those to the strategic plan as we previously discussed.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would like to say a real appreciation to Mr. Miller and his leadership for our retreat and for the support of staff at the presentation. Last year it was phenomenal at the retreat, and when we were presented with the budget and with a strategic plan, and then this year again, it was all well presented, and I thought we really had a good strategic plan, and yet we all know one of our most important things is the streets in our community, and we can see it throughout our plan that we touch on it, but we don't specifically address it. And we, more importantly, don't specifically address how we're going to address funding them in a very dramatic approach. And I appreciate, again, your leadership and how we're going to address that. So thank you again for your leadership and for the staff putting that plan together and filling up those voids.
Thank you.
And I would just like to thank the council, since I didn't get to make that meeting. I appreciate y'all putting some good ideas on that to work in that meeting, and got to meet with City Manager Mike Miller here, and he went over them with me, and I really appreciate the ideas of bringing home the getting some market rate housing in Muskogee. We always talk about growing Muskogee and building new houses, and not to say that we don't need subsidized living here, but we need some market rate houses in Muskogee if we really truly want to set a tax base and everything for us to have these better streets. You got to have market rate housing, people. And until we get that, we're not going to have the money to fund these streets that everybody gripes about. So we got to have some jobs, and I'm sure the port's working on that. Even if they're a 100-job factory, I'd be happy with that. But at the end of the day, we got to have some market rate housing. And we got to get that ad valorem tax and everything else coming off of that, and those people with those $40,000 and $50,000 jobs to live here. If we don't ever get those, we're going to continue to recycle this basket and keep going through it and never getting anywhere that we want to really truly be. So we need some people to start building those market rate houses here. Try to keep some of these people living here. Thank you.
All right. Did I have a motion?
Yep.
Okay.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Definitely.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
All right. Item number 9 passed. Item number 10, please.
Consider approval of receiving donated funds for the month of March 2018 in the amount of $409 for the city's animal shelter sponsorship program as per the attached list, or take other necessary action.
Chief.
Mr. Chairman, for the month of March, excuse me, the city received $409 in donations, and of course this goes to our sponsorship program, spay and neuter of pets. So I would urge that we accept the $409 for that purpose.
Move the approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 10 passed, and that is our final item. So I guess at this time, I'll yield to the mayor for a presentation.
The whole thing? Are you ready? Whereas the City of Muskogee works in partnership with the Muskogee City-County Port Authority, the Greater Muskogee Area Chamber of Commerce and Tourism, and Main Street Muskogee to promote economic well-being, enhance the quality of life, and create, retain, and expand jobs that facilitate growth, increase wealth, and provide a stable tax base for the City of Muskogee. And whereas the Port Authority's Industrial Development Program is charged with creating an environment for economic growth through advocating for pro-business public policies and delivering innovative programs and services to increase industrial-related investment and job opportunities in the Muskogee area. And whereas the Greater Muskogee Chamber of Commerce's mission is to serve as a voice and resource for business, to foster partnerships and community prosperity, and to cultivate economic growth, and whereas the Chamber's tourism program promotes the community by highlighting Muskogee's attractions, venues, food, culture, and other events and activities that bring thousands of visitors to Muskogee every year. And whereas Main Street Muskogee's mission is to recreate a sense of community through economic development, events, activities, and festivals that bring citizens and tourists to downtown Muskogee, and whereas in the recognition these entities and our local economic developers receive during this week, we hope to encourage them to continue their contributions to the city of Muskogee, a community that is appreciative and supportive of their efforts. And now, therefore, be it resolved that I, John Robert Coburn, Mayor of the City of Muskogee, do hereby recognize May 7th through the 12th, 2018 as Economic Development Week.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Can we meet down in the front and do a presentation?
All of us?
Our three economic development arms are standing here. John Newby. Congratulations. Excellent job creating jobs and opportunity. Ashley Wilburn, congratulations to you. Kind of new on the job in both cases here. Outstanding work being done. And the seasoned veteran, Marie Sinar, with the Port of Muskogee. And we want to present this document to you, a proclamation to you. So I will do that.
I'm good. How are you?
Thanks, Brent.
Evidently, we've overestimated Dan.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with our Public Works Committee meeting. Item number 1.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of April 16th, 2018.
Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in, oh. Sorry, too many committees.
Aye. Is that what you were waiting upon?
Yeah.
Are there any
Oh,
discussion?
roll call.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 2.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4045A, rezoning the property located on the northwest corner of 3rd and Kalamazoo, more particularly described in the ordinance from C2 General Commercial District to R1 Single Family Residential District, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the applicant Dewberry is requesting to rezone property from the C2 General Commercial District to the R1 Single Family Residential District. The property is located on the northwest corner of South 3rd Street and Kalamazoo Avenue. The reason for the rezoning is to allow the property to be developed residentially. Looking at the existing zoning land use, starting with the site. Currently, the site is zoned C2, General Commercial, and it's vacant property. To the north is zoned R1 Single Family, and there's a couple single family dwellings. To the south, which is across Kalamazoo, is zoned R1 Single Family, and is vacant property. To the east, across 3rd Street, is zoned R1 Single Family and a single family dwelling. And to the west, which is to the rear of the site, is zoned R1 Single Family and is vacant property. Now, if you look at the land use map, it does indicate residential within this area. Therefore, this request to rezone to R1 single family complies with the comprehensive plan and land use map adopted by the city of Muskogee. This item has been recommended for approval by staff and planning commission. Glad to answer any questions.
Recommend approval.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Are there any other questions?
I thought we had to come out of the public hearing first.
We can wait for
Gotta
that.
close it.
Yeah, we not.
We didn't have anybody sign up.
Didn't have anybody.
Was there nobody signed up?
Nobody
No,
signed up
no one signed up.
to speak at the public hearing. So I guess I need a motion to come out of the public hearing.
No, you just need to close the public
I need
hearing
to close the public hearing.
and then
I'm
entertain
sorry.
a motion.
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Don't need it.
You don't need it.
Just
Don't need
to
a
say
motion.
Close it.
Okay.
Since no one signed up to speak,
It
close the
is
public
closed.
hearing and now entertain a motion on the
Okay.
item.
We'll close the public hearing. Now I need a motion to approve.
Move for approval.
A motion and a second. And roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 3.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of resolution number 2721, amending the land use map regarding property located within part of sections 2 and 3, Township 14 North, Range 18 East, more particularly described in the resolution, from industrial to transitional residential, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the land use map of the city to reflect said change.
Mr.
Mr.
Johnson,
Garvin.
Jill, open the public hearing.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the resolution before you, if approved, would amend the land use map or a small portion of the land use map from the industrial classification to the transitional residential, which would allow for residential development and commercial development rather than just industrial. The property is located within sections 1 and 2, Township 14 North, Range 18 East. It's basically between Cherokee Street, Cherokee Drive, the railroad corridor, and Peak Boulevard. The reason for this review of this request to amend the land use map is because City Council requested that we look at it when they denied a rezoning on Cherokee Street from a C1 local commercial district to the I1 light industrial district. And that request complied with the land use map. So since it was denied, it was asked that we look at this area to see if it needed to be amended. So to start with, the land use map was last adopted on June the 4th, 2012. The area you see in purple is the area that was classified as industrial. The resolution before you just addresses a small portion of this area, but I felt like I need to go through with you this entire area and show you why it was classified as industrial. Then we can look at the smaller area. To start with, it's about 1,718 acres, 2.7 square miles. The property that was denied the zoning is located where the star was, and again, that's the area I'll get into a little more detail in a minute on. Basically, I'm outlining the area of the land use map that shows it as industrial classification. One of the first things we look at on industrial is, does this property have access to highway system? And the area I just highlighted is 64 Highway. Runs basically through the middle from the north to the south. We also have Highway 65 or Peak Boulevard. It runs through the middle from the east to the west, so it has access to the highway. Next, we look if it has rail access. Union Pacific actually has 2 railroad corridors running through the property, one kind of through the middle, and the second one along the east edge of the industrial classification. Another thing we look at is what is there existing. Is there industrial uses within this area? And I've just highlighted some of the uses, but Dow Tile, Superior Linen, Love Bottling, Mace Petroleum, Ready Mix Concrete, Glover Construction, Yawkey Iron and Metal. City of Muskogee has their fleet facilities, fire training center, and the speedway. Those are all classified as industrial uses located within this area. And again, there's more, but these are just some of them. Next thing we looked at is there any established neighborhoods within this area? And when you look at it, there is no established neighborhoods. You've got Southgate that's just to the west of the site. You've got the Grandview 1st, 2nd edition and Grandview 7 that's kind of just to the east of the site. Within this area, 2.7 square miles, there is less than 60 single-family dwellings. when we pulled the water report on these properties, I think there's about 39 actually paying water bills. So some of those houses are dilapidated and or vacant. So very little residential housing within that 2.7 square miles. One of the next things we looked at is in this area within the floodplain, and I'm highlighting two sections of the property within the industrial classification that are within the floodplain. One just south of the old fairgrounds. The other one is kind of south and east of, south and east of Dow Tile. The last thing we look at is existing zoning. What is the existing zoning currently today within this area? I'm again highlighting the area we're talking about. The majority of the property is currently zoned industrial. Everything that I highlighted within that red box is currently industrial classification. There's some more large areas that's agricultural. That's the green looking color. And then all the other, if it's colored area, is a commercial zoning classification. So within this 2.7 square miles, the area I'm highlighting now in black is the only residential zoning currently within that area. Everything else is already zoned commercial or industrial. And the area I highlighted is around 24th Street. It's not within the area where the star is, where I was asked to look at. So on this resolution that was put together, just basically took an area abutting the boundary and extending it over to include the area that the zoning was denied. Again, within this area, there is no residential zoning. It's all commercial and industrial currently. Just to kind of also within this area, there's a lot of commercial uses, and I'll go through some of those in just a second. But to kind of summarize what I just went through, the overall area is 1,718 acres, 2.7 square miles. There's 2 highways running through it, 2 railroad corridors, several existing industrial uses. A lot of this property is unplatted or large parcels, vacant land, floodplain. It's isolated from established residential areas, less than 60 single-family dwellings. The majority of the property is already zoned industrial. When you look at the smaller portion, which is 58 acres, again, there is no residential zoning in there. It's all commercial industrial. There's an existing petroleum company, couple of auto repair shops. There's auto sales, a boat sales, an old salvage yard, and a towing company that's within that 58 acres. There's a lot of commercial and industrial uses currently existing in there. There is some single-family dwellings in there too, but there's just as much or more commercial uses within that area. Now, as you know, industrial is not compatible with residential uses. They typically, because of the noise, the light, the odor, the outside storage, the fuels that they have, it's not compatible. If this land use map amendment is approved, it would allow new residential development within this area. So you need to keep that in mind also. And this is language taken directly out of the comprehensive plan. What we're looking at is amending the land use map, but this is the language out of the comprehensive plan. It says a large industrial area at the intersection of Highway 64 and Peak Boulevard has access to rail and highway system. The large parcels in isolation from established residential areas make this an ideal location for industrial uses. So with that being said, staff did recommend denial of the land use map amendment, and Planning Commission met this morning, and they also recommended denial of the land use map amendment. Be glad to answer any questions.
So right now I've received no requests to be heard, so we'll close the public hearing. One, I would like to say I really appreciate staff and the work that you've done, Mr. Garvin, and any other staff that's been involved in this process. I had requested, and any time that we, have an impact into a neighborhood, and as this was first brought to us, this classification, reestablishing a business inside this would have had an impact into this neighborhood, and I appreciate your looking into this because really it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. Do I have a motion?
Does the motion need to be to accept,
to deny the resolution?
Okay.
I'll second what Mr. Johnson just said. This was a very, very thorough report, and I'll make a motion to deny.
Second.
So I have a motion to deny making a change to the long-range plan, and we have a second. Any other discussion?
Mr. Garvin,
Yes, sir.
just from my limited knowledge, if you can, just a couple of minutes, what are we denying? I missed the conversation about what the application was requesting and what happened.
And what this does, this goes back to, I think it was February, we had a zoning request come through on Cherokee Street to rezone the property from a C1 local commercial district to I1 light industrial district because they wanted to open up a mini storage type facility. There were some existing metal buildings. They wanted to use those metal buildings. Rezoning it to I1, which was the proper zoning classification for the storage building, and the land use map said, yes, the I1 is a proper zoning. However, when it went to council, council denied the zoning, which put the council's decision in conflict with the comprehensive plan and land use map. So anytime that happens, as Councilman Johnson suggested, let's relook at the land use map and see if it needs to be amended. That was the reason for the process. It was more or less a council request to come back and review it. Upon review it, we still feel it's an appropriate location for industrial. So even though we've got a resolution that I prepared to put forward, I'm recommending denial of that resolution because we do feel like it is an appropriate location for industrial uses and that allowing new residential to develop would cause a negative impact in the future for industrial development within that area.
So mini storage would be considered residential?
Mini storage is considered industrial use.
Okay.
So unless it's zoned industrial, they can't have the mini storage. Now, the applicant may, I don't know if he will, but the applicant may request another zoning come back through. It was denied the first time, so he has to wait 6 months. I don't know if he will or not, but he could request for the zoning to be resubmitted and for council to hear it again. I'm assuming if this is denied, when council hears it again, most likely it will be approved because you're confirming by denying this that it is an appropriate location for industrial. So that's kind of where,
Which
where
means
we're at.
if we deny, they can actually put the mini storage there.
They would still have to rezone it because they did not get the rezoning, but if they got it rezoned to light industrial, which they should get it, then yes, they could put the mini storage
Okay, I
there
just
in
want to
that
be sure.
existing building.
So when if I vote no, I'm saying yes, he has the possibility of putting a mini storage.
If you vote,
To deny.
If you vote yes, then he's got a possibility of putting a mini storage in. If you vote no,
the
then he
motion was
doesn't.
to deny.
Okay.
So if you vote yes to approve it, you need to vote no if that's what if you don't want the mini storage on this instead of yes on the denial.
And I'm wondering if it makes some sense at some point to change the requirements for where we might allow mini storages. Because what I'd hate to see is a person have purchased a property and think they could develop it for business purposes and then find out after they purchase the property they can't.
Yes, and actually, because the zoning was changed is the reason why he can't. Back in 2014, when we revised our zoning regulations and we looked at each zoning classification and to determine which use it should be in, mini storage was originally in a commercial zoning. But going through Planning Commission and the recommendation that was made was to change it to light industrial. A lot of that was because mini storage are typically metal buildings, and metal buildings, a lot of the members felt like should be an industrial area. Really, mini storage doesn't have a big impact because typically it's just people coming and dropping things off. You don't necessarily have a lot of traffic, but that was the
what you
recommendation.
say.
It was.
I said, be careful what you say. You get too many storage people here in the on the county.
Well, you know what I mean.
Be careful.
You have it's not on traffic in and out all day long, 24 hours a day.
So, to clarify this now, just give me clarification now.
Okay.
If we vote yes,
You're taking staff recommendation.
and then it's that they can have their mini storage if they come back and do
If
it.
they want to come back and
Okay.
resubmit a zoning, they could, and at that point, council should approve it because you're confirming that it is an
I
appropriate
agree with you.
location.
Okay.
So I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 4.
Discuss and review a report compiled by staff regarding daycare zoning regulations and provide direction to staff or take other necessary action.
Had Mr. Van on this. Do you know who would be taking this item? Okay. Mr. Reed?
Yes, Mr. Van did contact me due to a family conflict celebration with his son. He's not able to be here tonight, and so he asked me if I would present this item for him on tonight. This was something that we reviewed several months ago. An applicant who is requesting to expand her home daycare, and at the time we had decided to do some research, and I think there was a report that was put together, but we never did get any feedback, and so that's why Mr. Van put this item on the agenda for us to take a look at what the report stated and to reconsider allowing Ms. Logan, Cassandra Logan, who is the applicant, to be able to make a decision on if she can resubmit her application for a large daycare based on our actions today. He wanted me to clearly clear up some misconceptions of our last meeting about home daycares. We had a big debate with some of the surrounding neighbors about didn't want a whole lot of cars in and out of their neighborhoods with a larger daycare. One of the things that we've researched and found, and Ms. Logan can testify to this, she may have 12 clients, but 2 or 3 of those clients come from one car. So it's not like an increase of traffic in the neighborhood. Another complaint was the loud noise from the kids in and out of her yard into their yard. Of course, you do know Mr. Van went out and looked at the location. He went out and visited the site, and he wanted me to report on what a professional setup Ms. Logan has for her proposed expansion of her daycare. Professional setting, safe and secure fence, private fence, an area where the kids would not be in any conflict with the neighbors. And so with that, that's the portion that I've been asked to relay these messages to you guys from Councilman Van.
Okay. We have 2 that were signed up to speak to this item. And we did, in our Friday report, receive information back from Gary, and it was relayed through the city manager. Would we like to receive that report back, or would we like to hear from comments from those that had signed up to speak? What would be the wish of the council?
At some point, I'd like to hear a little synopsis of the report, short version.
Gary, if you could give us the briefing on the report, because it has been a little bit time ago.
Yeah, and 2, at the time when this was presented, there was a lot of question too about the DHS license and how they'll license up to 12 people for a large home daycare center. And therefore it was felt that our number should be increased to correspond with what DHS licensed them for. First of all, I want everyone to understand that there is a world of difference between issuing a license for a business and the zoning or land use for the property. DHS does issue a license, and basically you can't operate a daycare facility within Oklahoma without that license. But what the license looks at is the number of caregivers per children. What qualifications do the caregivers have? Do they have insurance? What is the caregiver's business policies? Do they provide transportation? Do they have a balanced program between the education, meals, rest time, play time? That is the licensing part, and that's what they licensed them to, either up to 7 for a daycare home or 12 for a large daycare home. That has nothing to do with zoning. As you know, zoning basically divides land into districts: commercial, residential, industrial. Each district will have its own requirements and is based on not only use, but it's based on the hours of operation, the traffic it generates, the parking, the light, the noise, the odor. That determines what zoning classification different uses should go in. Basically, the zoning regulations are in place to promote the public health, safety, peace, morals, comfort, convenience, prosperity, and order and general welfare of the citizens of Muskogee. We feel like allowing a commercial use within a residential area, and the daycare center is commercial use. it would basically violate the intent and purpose of zoning. Child care center may not generate a lot of traffic, but it also has parking requirements. And depending on the kids, if they go up to 12, depending on the age of the kids, they could have to have 3 workers, caregivers there. Well, that's 3 parking spots. Plus, you need a safe place to load and unload, drop off and pick up the children, somewhere other than the city street. Typically, residential property would not accommodate commercial use. You don't have the parking. You don't have the pick-up, drop-off zone that's out of the street. Plus, typically a home, that's typically a family's largest investment that they make. And if you have an established neighborhood where you've bought a home and made that investment, you allow a commercial use within that residential neighborhood, that established residential neighborhood, it's going to impact that investment. Additionally, if you increase the number more than 7, we are in charge of basically enforcing the building code regulations that the state of Oklahoma has adopted. The city of Muskogee adopted them too, but the state adopted them and then we confirmed it. We enforce it. If they was to have more than the 7 kids within the home, that structure would have to meet the commercial building code requirements. They would have to sprinkle it. They'd have to put exit lights, emergency lights, commercial wiring, and all the other requirements of a commercial building meeting the same type of classification of a daycare center. So there's a lot of work, additional work that would have to be done to the structure, which will it can impact how it looks and appears within a residential area. So for those reasons, we are not recommending any changes. Now, it was also asked that we look at some other cities on what their regulations were. And I see that someone has provided a list of daycare centers, looks like probably within Oklahoma, and the number of them, how many kids are allowed. We did look at other cities. And for example, take Broken Arrow, for example, and this is included in the report. Broken Arrow has several small daycare homes that's licensed through DHS, and they have several large daycare homes licensed through DHS. Large is 12. In Broken Arrow, if you're going to put in a large daycare home with 12 kids, you have to have a commercial zoning. In fact, if you're going to put in a daycare home with 7 kids, you're going to have a commercial zoning. If it's less than 5 kids, you can go in a residential area. Anything more than 5, and it has to be commercially zoned. And it's the same way in Shawnee.
Hey, Gary, while you're looking at that, what about Telequa and Fort Gibson? Where are they at on this list?
Well, we tried to look at some compared to kind of the same size as the city. But Henrietta, for example, is one that I wasn't aware of that DHS told me about. DHS said that in Henrietta, they don't allow daycare homes. You can only have a daycare center, and it has to be commercially zoned.
Did Telequa not have any?
The list here is the ones that we've checked. And again, I was asked to find, I think Councilman Coleman asked for cities kind of compatible to Muskogee. So those are the ones we looked at. We didn't look at the smaller cities. But in Muskogee, if it's for a daycare home, you can have up to 7 in a residential area. Any more than that, it's considered a center, and it has to be zoned commercially. Bartlesville, you can have up to 7 in a daycare home. They consider 8 or more a child care center. Broken Arrow, you can have up to 5 in a daycare home. 6 or plus is considered a center. Stillwater will allow up to 10 in a daycare home. They're the ones that allow the most. 11 or more are considered a daycare center and has to be zoned commercially. Moore and Shawnee are both like ours. 8 or plus is considered a center with a commercial zoning. Wassa, it's my understanding they really don't allow daycare centers or daycare homes. Also, anything with more than 4 kids is considered a daycare center. They do allow a special exception within the residential area. Lawton was 1 to 7 for a daycare home. 8 or plus is a daycare center. They require commercial zoning, and they also require a special exception for the 8 within a residential area. So basically, our ordinance is in line with the majority of the cities that we looked at. That's similar to our size. So again, we feel like there should not be any changes made to the regulations for a daycare home.
Thank you, Mr. Garvin, for getting us up to speed on what information you had provided to us. Demetrius Thomas and Cassandra Logan had signed up to speak tonight. If you both would come and give us your address, name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm Cassandra Logan, and my address is 4421 Dennison Street. And I'm Demetrius, and my address is 816 Denver.
I think they signed
And
up twice, so they each get.
I would like to say
They said they just need
on some of the stuff he said, I have the paperwork, and I didn't bring it on Broken Arrow. That is not accurate about Broken Arrow. You don't have to be zoned. You don't even have to be zoned to have large family daycares because DHS allows it. You don't have to have no sprinkler systems and none of this stuff. That's for centers. Centers, 12 kids or less is a home daycare. Now, I have the paperwork, and I didn't bring it, and I was trying to look at my email to get it, but all that stuff he said about Broken Arrow is not accurate at all. Here's some of the homes in Broken Arrow right here that's 12. Yeah,
And
they allow large family daycare center homes because they're not centers. I don't know where we come with centers, but they're homes, and there are large family daycares in Broken Arrow, Tulsa, Wagner, Tahlequah, and you don't have to do like we have to do here, come and pay money to get rezoned and all that. It's just something that's allowed. What you can't do is you can't advertise, have advertisement. You can't, like if you have a van or something, you can't have more than 2. This is all the requirements of Broken Arrow. So that's just, and I talked to the planning lady in Broken Arrow, and I have a printout, and I just didn't bring it, but I can bring it back up in here Monday when we come back because that's not accurate about Broken Arrow, about only having 5 children. And we have a printout of all the daycares in Muskogee other than this. In Oklahoma, where they do allow, the different counties and cities allow large family daycares, and it's based on your experience, it's based on your education, and it's based on your home size. That's how DHS determines if you get to have a large family, if you just get to have 7 kids. And when you do get large family, you do not have to make it a center. You don't have to do any changes to your home. You just have to have a fenced-in area for the children, where it's safe. And with the parking and stuff, well, it's the same difference with the 7. The people come get their kids, however they get them, it's the same difference. So all that stuff is just like, it doesn't make sense. And I don't know why Muskogee, why are we so behind time, and you fight everything that people are trying to do positive, and I just don't understand it. It's just time to allow people to do it because DHS monitors. So it's not like we just gonna be out here doing crazy stuff. We're regulated by the state. People come out, we have to follow all the strict guidelines and everything to do daycare. And it's not this daycare is a serious business, and there is really a shortage of daycares in this town. It really is. So, and I understand you all not wanting everybody to do it, but to just say that you can't do it because it's a center and you got to do all this, all that stuff is inaccurate. It's not even true. So I don't even know why we keep going through this and why you all keep getting this information that's false. Because to have a large family daycare, you don't have to do anything different other than just having 12 kids. You don't have to make a zoo out of your home. You don't have to change your landscaping. You don't have to do nothing other than provide care for children, do the guidelines that's required, and that is it. And then it's definitely not going to make any more traffic than if you have someone coming to visit your home. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all have people coming in and out of your homes. Your neighborhoods do. So I don't understand why it's just like this big issue. I really don't. And people need daycare for their kids. In Muskogee, there's definitely a shortage of child care. Because we have people calling us all the time, and it's based on the ages and stuff. It's a lot of people calling, because if you have infants, 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds, those are the most hardest to find daycare for. And about what he said about 3 staff, you only have to have 2 staff. And the ratio is you can have 12 kids, you can't have more than 6 under 1, and then you can have the rest of them older, and you can have 2 staff there with those 12 kids. But if you get 8 kids under 1, then you would have to have 3. But that's kind of a lot for, to have 8 1-year-olds or infants in a daycare. So it's only 2 staff, and most people that live in their homes have 2 cars, so that's not taking up no more extra time, space or whatever. So I don't get it.
Okay.
You made mention of some information from some of the cities you checked
Broken
into.
Arrow, yes, because I'm getting ready to move to Broken Arrow, so I called on the guidelines for it, and she told me what you can do, you know, and what you can't do.
Could-
And it's definitely not that you can only have 5 kids, because you can have a large family. You just, you know, you can't advertise, like, have a big old sign in front of your yard, like, this is my daycare or whatever. And like I said, if you have vehicles that, you know, that you have your daycare name on, you can't have more than 2. You can't do anything to alter the parking, to add to the parking, or things like that. But, you know, you definitely can have a large family in Broken Arrow.
I'm kind of afraid that it might just be me, that someone's confused, and like I say, it may just be me, over what DHS
Yes, someone is.
says you can do and what a particular city says you can do. But if you've got some of these lists from cities, if prior to next Monday, if you could provide them to staff, they'll send those out to us, and we'll double check on our efforts to make sure that we're talking about apples and apples and oranges and oranges.
I specifically had it in Broken Arrow.
Councilman Kell, I can help you out with that. If you open up your packet to page 7 of that report we done, is a copy of Broken Arrow's regulations. And it plainly states 5 or more is a daycare center.
Well,
Where they're getting confused is the licensing, which is
That's what I'm
completely
afraid.
different
Yeah,
from zoning.
that's what I'm
You can
afraid.
have a 12 here. It's just got to be zone commercial. You can have 12 in Broken Arrow. It's just got to be zone commercial.
Well,
That's the conflict.
That's not accurate.
And here's the deal. We've got the information that we've been provided. If you can provide the city information that you've been provided, we'll try to figure it out.
Nowhere in my conversation did she ever say that it has to be zone commercial, because I know the questions to ask, you know, and that's just not accurate.
Okay, well, that'd be a big help.
Mr. Chairman, if we're going to get this information, would it be possible to get it where it's part of the packet and not get it handed out at the meeting?
Yes.
I don't want it at the last minute.
Yeah, no, see if we could get it early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Reed, I know you're only representing Mr. Van in this issue, but I would like, if it's possible at some point, even if it's not next week, I'd like us to consider inviting our local representative from DHS to make a presentation to us and give us a holistic view of the needs, the pros, and the cons of what these home daycares do or don't do, so that we can just have information that would help us be better partners with those in the community who are looking to do these type of endeavors, because certainly whatever action we take is not going to impact just this one home daycare. It's going to affect home daycares throughout the city. And so I think all of us would benefit if we had that type of presentation. I'd also like to, I know we don't have this tonight, but I know that several times either residents or staff said something about traffic. I think if we had a traffic study or a traffic report, that would be in order to show us, based on historic record, not just here in Muskogee, but in other places, if we've had these type of organizations allowed to operate in neighborhoods, was there a traffic problem? Other than, the assumption, because I think all of us would assume that anything new that adds numbers might cause traffic, but a traffic study may show otherwise and may validate the argument one way or the other. So I think we need a lot more information, and I agree with the mayor and Mr. Kale, not the night of, because I'm going back to what Councilor Hall said. I want to know specifically how many daycare homes are in Fort Gibson, how many daycare homes are in Tahlequah, how many daycare homes are in Muskogee, not just the county, how many are in Broken Arrow, so that we have some numbers to compare, not just county-wide, because it's hard to extrapolate county-wide versus individual numbers.
Yeah, and we do have those numbers. There is a lot, but that has nothing to do with zoning. That has to do with the
DHS.
licenses through DHS. And I talked to Jennifer Mowery with DHS on the phone, and I'm sure she'd probably be glad to attend one of the meetings to address the mayor and council.
In my mind, this is a city zoning issue, not a DHS licensing issue.
Yeah.
Mr. Tucker, would it be appropriate for me to give these young ladies a list of the cities, the information we have on their regulations?
Of course, it's public record. Yeah, it was included in our packet.
Ladies, let me show you what we've gotten from these other cities, and you can let us know where we've gone wrong there.
And a copy of each city's regulations is also attached to that report to back up. And this report, now, I don't know if you remember Skylar Carter. She attended several council meetings. She was a part-time employee of the city of Muskogee. She's going to Alabama A&M, just graduated last week, studying planning and urban development. She's the one who assisted on putting this report together and done the research, which I think she's done a very good job doing. She did include all the ordinances for each city that was looked at in this packet. So you could go back and look at that. The Broken Arrow, the Shawnee, the Moore, the Lawton, all those are included in the packet you just gave them.
My biggest concern, and I know you're having to bang your head against the wall every day, from your perspective, is zoning consistency, and just like the issue in reverse, that we just talked about in the industrial, and then in residential zoning. And I'm inclined to follow our zoning laws.
Yes. A good example would be, and to compare, is the Able Commission. The Able Commission issues license for alcohol. They issue the license. We determine what zone it has to be before you can have a use that serves alcohol. Has nothing to do with licensing. They'll issue the license, but it has to be zoned for that use.
We're not
And it's
gonna
the
let
same
them
way here.
Put it next to a church. We're not
Yes.
going to let them put it next to a grade school.
Yes, and it's the same way here. With DHS, they issue a license based on the number of caregivers, on what the facility has, and what qualifications they have. That, again, has nothing to do with the zoning. We're not saying you can't have 12. You can't have 12. It just needs to be zoned commercial. That's what these other cities are saying.
Ms. Thomas, could you get that information back that you have and bring it back to the city clerk? And
So she can
then
get it to
we can
us.
make sure and get that back, and we can get that back to everybody else, where we can have it before Monday night's meeting. Now, this item doesn't have any action on it. So what was the conclusion of this item?
I think it'd be more providing direction to staff.
Providing
once you hear
additional
everything, do
information?
you want to see the ordinance changed
You know
or
what
remain the same?
Mr. Van's direction was on this item?
Yeah, I've spoken with him, and so the idea was, again, this came up last fall. We provided the report to you in January, and we never heard feedback from the council, so that's why Mr. Van wanted to put on.
Providing additional information.
To have this discussion, to say, here's the report from the staff that you requested, and I do think it mirrored what was requested at the time. I understand that maybe there's some other cities we want to compare it to, but at the time, this was what was requested, and I'm confident, I'm proud of the staff putting it together. So really, it is direction to staff at this point. Do we want to continue the discussion? I think would be an option, continue the discussion next Monday. Or you could say we want to, based off of this additional research, you could say gather the additional research and work with our citizens to try and see what else is out there, and whether we do that, whether that's in time for Monday or for the following Monday, but we'll bring an agenda item back when we have more data at the appropriate time. I think that's possible. It's a council has whatever option they choose as far as providing the direction that they want to head next.
I think we would be rushing together really quickly for Monday night, possibly. I kind of agree with Patrick Cale. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think we might have a conflicting of information about what is what and what is what, and gathering more information. I don't know that we'll have it. And I would like to get additional information from Mr. Van as far as what the intent would be. But I think we just need, and then also getting information from DHS as far as whether they could present information to us, because I think they would be more helpful to us than anybody else could. When we're talking about, potential traffic impact into a neighborhood of converting something, that really is getting someone to come to council that could provide that insight, and to gather that up before Monday night would be.
So perhaps we could arrange a future date where we could have that presentation from representative from DHS, and that we can work with you guys on finding additional information that we currently don't have and putting that all together in a packet. A date in the future, but not a date necessarily determined today, of course, depending on the availability of the person who can come and present, of course, as well. So if that's a direction that you guys would want to provide, I think that we could move ahead in that direction.
Did we voted on this when it came forth the first time, didn't we?
Correct.
And we denied it?
Correct. This was the rezoning that was out in the Honor Heights area.
And we voted basically to send that back for review and for staff to look into it, and that's the report that came back to council, and that's the thorough report that they provided to us.
Yes, the rezoning went through in the middle of November, then we got the report and submitted it around the end of December, 1st of January.
Yeah.
And we never heard back because we were told that it was a no.
And I think that's the way when we voted, it was a no because.
No, after that, it was supposed to have been 60 days out. And we called back after the 60 days to ask, well, where are we at with it? And we were told that they decided that they weren't going to do it. That's the answer that we got. And then we just happened to talk to Mr. Dan, and he checked into it because he's like, no, that's not right. And that's why we're on it tonight, because we talked
because
to Mr. Dan.
I could swear we voted no, and then if we wanted to look back at it, then we
60
could.
days, yeah.
But it was still, but the original proposal was a no.
Yeah, it was a no.
Okay. Well, and my stance on this is still what it's going to be again, and that is that if we're going to have them up here, then we need to invite the other people that it's going to affect the most, and that's the people that live next door and across the street and down the street from them. Because, like you said, it's going to affect other places than just this one neighborhood. It's going to affect my neighborhood. It's going to affect your neighborhood. And the same reason I was kind of chastised by some people on city council for my decision is, and I understand. I'm torn between this. I really am, because I love the fact that you're getting out there and you're wanting a business and you want to put kids in the house and watch other people's children. And I understand that you want to move it from 6 to 12, and I understand all that, and I want to support that. I'm torn on the other side, like I was on the last meeting, is it's in my neighborhood. It's going to be next door to my neighborhood, and I've seen different houses where people have put daycares next to houses, and nobody wants to live there. And I'm not saying that in a negative way right now, because I could vote for this or against it come Monday or when it comes back on. I just want my point to be viewed here.
So if that's the case, then why come do y'all allow it in certain neighborhoods? It's only because I'm in Honor Heights. If I wasn't in Honor Heights, then I'm sure y'all would okay.
Yeah, if you was on Martin Luther King.
I think it would be.
If I was on the south end somewhere, then y'all would say yeah. If I was on the north end, y'all would say yeah. So the only reason why come we having conflict is because I'm in Honor Heights.
That's
and
right.
the last time I was up here, you said that they pay good money to be out there. I do too.
Well, and they also have a deal for a residence and not a business next to
Okay,
them.
well, it's not bringing none of that, though. It's not bringing no negativity. I don't have a driveway in the front of my house. My driveway is in the back. So when parents come and drop their kids off, all they do is drop them off and leave, and that's it. So nobody comes in the front of my house. I don't even have a driveway in the front of my house. So I don't know how this is going to bring us more traffic as it does whenever y'all put up the lights. I don't understand that. When people come down from everywhere and lines are backed up, y'all don't think about that. You don't think about the neighborhood when you say that.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so why? I mean, it's traffic going through there all day, every day when the lights and stuff is on. So he talking about people parking. They gonna park in the back of my house. I don't have a driveway in the front. And that side street is pretty much just a street just for my house, period. There's nobody else that have a back driveway. So I don't understand where he getting with this parking. And then when I called in January, when I talked to him, he let me talk to his secretary, and they told me that they denied it. So now if they denied it, then why are we back up here?
Okay, we've had 5 minutes for them, and we've had 5 minutes now for the city council to have questions.
I'm going to make one last statement. Before a vote, here's what I'd like to see that's real important to me.
The challenge is, Mr. Kale, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as public be heard, we have some we have some standards where there's 5 minutes and 5 minutes, and we're getting to where we're getting outside our parameters.
Okay.
Just as far as public to be heard, council can still debate the item.
Right.
But unless we want to extend the time frame, and we can go ahead and have a vote to extend the time frame.
There's no need.
Okay. So just with the parameters of public to be heard, we have 5 minutes for them, and then we have 5 minutes for the city council to ask questions of those. And really, there was originally no action on this item, but I do believe there needs to be some action, and we've discussed the possibility of getting more additional information on this. Is there anybody that would like to make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion, and as part of my observations after our time limits, I'm just going to say what's important to me before any votes are taken or any other thing is, at the very least, these young ladies and council all agree upon what the other city specs are and what DHS specs are, because there's a lot of confusion right now. So I want to make sure that we're all in agreement as to what, and we're going to find that out in the next. Having said that, I guess it's appropriate to
Here's what I've heard. With regard to a motion to direct staff, which I think is the direction that the council is going, that would be to direct staff to research and bring back additional information relating to licensees and locations of home daycares within Muskogee, information from the speakers, Ms. Thomas and Ms. Logan, information related to any traffic data that is available either here locally or within some of the other communities that we have obtained information for, and then also information on zoning requirements of our neighboring communities like Fort Gibson, Tahlequah, and Wagner, as well as invite a representative of the Department of Human Services to come and address the council on these items.
That's your motion?
I'll make a motion that we do that.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Item number 5.
Consider the appointment of Mary Beth Hicks to serve on the Muskogee County Transit Authority, replacing Lisa Benjamin, subject to a term to be established in the bylaws, or take other necessary action.
This happens to be one of my appointments, and I'm very proud to be making this appointment. One, the Muskogee Transit Authority is very important to our community. One of the things that we lack so much of is community transportation. I mean, it really is. And Mary Hicks is one that I served with through Bridges Out of Poverty. She was one of our first ones to go through Bridges Out of Poverty, and she still volunteers through that program. And now she works at Green Country Mental Health. And so she would be a wonderful one to be on that board, and that would be my recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 6.
Receive report on the completion of the 43rd and 45th Streets, project number 201-50045, and take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee. A few weeks ago, we approved final payment on the 43rd and 45th Street reconstruction project. This was a project that was funded using the Eastern Oklahoma Development District grant to help fund for this type of development or for development along these roadways. I've got some before pictures as 43rd and after, and then 45th and after. We just want to since it is complete, the roadway's been in use since July 11th when we put it into full service. But we want to celebrate that we have a successful completion of this project, success for the city, and it's essential to the commerce and industry of the city. And then on June 7th, we're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony at 10 a.m. out on 43rd on the site, and you'll be getting formal invitations to that ceremony.
So I want to thank Mr. Riley and certainly his predecessor, Mr. Stewart, and the staff for overseeing a complicated project that's long but much needed. And we wanted to just acknowledge that more than we did at the final payment, which is kind of a administrative thing that we do. We want to say this has made a very positive impact on our community, and we're going to take some time out to celebrate that here next month, and we hope you can put it on your calendars.
And this is really talking about, when we're talking about industrial development, too.
Yes.
I mean, it really is a good time to celebrate that. Do I have a motion? Or do we need any
No,
action on this?
we just
or
wanted to make the report.
Really
There's no action necessary by council.
Point of celebration.
Yes.
Item number 7.
Receive report on U.S. Highway 69 safety data as compiled by Muskogee Police Department and take other necessary action.
Chief Estridge.
Mr. Chairman, I want to introduce to you all Officer Tyler Evans. He has produced a report that is somewhat compelling and very interesting on the data involving traffic on US 69. So I think, where you go? Okay. So I think he has an interesting report for you guys, and I think it will be answer a lot of questions. So, Tyler, go ahead.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Officer Evans with Muskogee Police Department. I started this data gathering about 6 months ago when ODOT came out and said, hey, we're going to build a bypass around Muskogee. They kind of threw out some numbers and stuff I didn't necessarily agree with. So I went to Deputy Chief Farmer and said, hey, I'd like to have all accidents that occurred between January 1st, 2012 to December 31st, 2017. So I gave us 6 full years of data to look at. Now, guys, I've looked at this data for about 6 months now. I've made a pretty detailed spreadsheet. I could talk to you guys about an hour over this, but we're going to make this down in about 7 or 8 minutes. We're just going to hit the high points, the notes, the facts, and the figures. If you guys have questions, just feel free to ask them when I get done, okay? So I'm a patrol officer from the Muskogee Police Department. I'm one of the on-call traffic crash investigators. I've been through OHP's intermediate crash investigations, their advanced, and their fatality crash reconstruction school. I personally investigated over 100+ accidents here in Muskogee. So when I got the spreadsheet from Deputy Chief Farmer, there are 895 wrecks on there. I've broke all those wrecks down in these 9 different categories, whether they occurred on private property, they occurred on Highway 69, they didn't, they were injury, they were non-injury, they involved semis, involved fatalities. I broke those down into a spreadsheet that numbers can be pulled out of, okay? So the first big one is when I went to the meeting last fall, they said 895 accidents, almost 900 accidents occurred. I started digging into it. 24% of those accidents reported occurred on private property. Now, these are wrecks that occur at Quick Trip, they occur at the pilot, semis back into one another, come and go, stuff like that. So right off the top, we can take 24% out of those wrecks. Next was accidents not occurring on 69 that were close to. 50 single vehicle accidents that didn't occur to 2 people. These are vehicles that hit dogs, they hit deer, they hit shopping carts, they ran off the road. So if we take those top 3 categories out, we go from 895 accidents down to 550. So you divide that over a 6-year period, that's about 91 accidents a year we have on 69, or less than 2 a week. ODOT says we have about 20,000 vehicles that travel through US 69 every day. So it's about 7.3, 7.4 million cars a year that drive down Highway 69, and we have, like I say, less than 2 a week. Accidents involving semis, out of the 550, 131 involved a semi. Out of all accidents over 6 years, 29 were injury accidents involving a semi. That leads to only 5% of all the accidents that actually occur on 69 being injury accidents involving semis. One of ODOT's points was it's dangerous, 69 is dangerous because of the freight traffic, because of the semis, but when you really break the data down and look at it, only 5% of all the accidents on 69 involve a semi and it being an injury accident. So we have less than 5 a year involving semi being injury and accident. 78%, almost 80% of the accidents are non-injury on Highway 69. They're about split half and half between rear end collisions. A lot of these occur at red light, green lights. You get a fender bender, somebody a little bit quicker on the gas than you are, and you get a dented bumper. The other half is merging accidents, T-bone collisions. So ODOT, when we pull their data and look at this spreadsheet, I'm trying to run a yes or no question. Was somebody injured or were they not injured? ODOT has like 7 different options: no injury, possible injury, unknown injury, not applicable, incapacitating injury, non-incapacitating injury, and fatality. You can't run a yes or no question with 7 different options. So what I did, I went and I've read every one of these wrecks twice now, all 895 of them. So what I did, I went in and seen, was anybody transported by EMS? If they're transported by EMS, we said yes, injury accident. If everybody refused EMS, we said no, it was a non-injury accident. So out of the 550 accidents, 119 were injury accidents, 29 involved a semi, 2 of those have been fatalities. Like I say, hitting on the other note, only 5% of all accidents on Highway 69 are injury accidents involving a semi or freight traffic. So this is probably the most interesting slide I want you guys to look at. So during the same time frame, the same 6 years, I pulled the data for Shawnee Boulevard, Muskogee Street, York Street, and Main Street. We had 895 on Highway 69. We almost had double on Shawnee Boulevard, or Shawnee Bypass. Over 1,000 on York, 1,000 on Muskogee, and we almost have the same as many accidents on Main Street as we do Highway 69. This is just the overview, everything we just talked about, the facts and figures real quick. So we presented this data to ODOT. They said, hey, this is kind of your data. It did come from our system because I could read every report and stuff. I can't do that with ODOT's recs. I can just get the figures that they give us. They said, well, this is kind of your data. So I went to ODOT and pulled their data. So this is ODOT's data, what they have. So for comparison for Highway 69, we said, okay, what other town does Highway 69 run through similar to ours? Wagner, Pryor, and Atoka. So this bypass is going to bypass roughly a little less than 10 miles of Highway 69 in Muskogee. So what I did is I went and grabbed 10 miles of highway for Wagner, Pryor, and Atoka and compared it to us to see how dangerous we actually are. Let's compare apples to apples. Highway 69, 4 lanes through a town, exactly 10 miles over the exact same time frame. So ODOT will assign a statewide rate. We can call that the statewide average, what it should be. And their definition of a statewide rate is statewide rates are computed based on similar roadways pertaining to number of lanes, divided or undivided, rural or urban, and access control. So like I told you, this is Highway 69, exactly 10 miles of Highway 69, all of its 4 lanes through a town. So you would think the statewide average should be the same. So these are the numbers from ODOT. As you can tell at the top, Muskogee, top left corner, we have an average daily traffic of almost 20,000 cars a year. We've had 6 fatalities over 6 years. Our fatal collision rate, you can call that our locality rate. That's what they're assigned to our part of Muskogee here. And that will change depending where you go. However, the statewide rate, we just wanted the definition, should be the same. So it's shown that we're a little above the statewide rate. However, if you look over at Atoka, they're below the statewide rate. They've had the same number of fatalities. They have the same amount of traffic that go through town. If you look down at Wagner and Pryor, the statewide rate, 1.42 and 1.42. They have the same rate. That makes sense. It's exactly 10 miles of Highway 69 through their town is 4 lanes. We posed a question to ODOT, why is their statewide rate different than our statewide rate? We have 1.23, they have 1.42. If we had their statewide rate, our Highway 69, our part of Highway 69, would be safer than the state average. We posed those questions to ODOT about a month ago. Yet we have not received an answer back from them on their data. So this is their data, this is their numbers. We simply pose the questions to them. Why do we look more dangerous than what we actually are? There's a formula down at the bottom. If you guys like doing math, you can figure those rates out for yourself. So not using ODOT's data, we went to NHTSA. NHTSA is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, which is a federal funded organization that does research data on car seats, cars, DUIs, anything, you name it. And these are the rates they have assigned for Oklahoma from 2012 through 2015. Like I said, we had a locality rate of 1.39. So we're actually below the rate for 12, 13, and 14, and just over in 15. They don't quite have the rates for 16 and 17 yet. So I'm not saying that ODOT's data is wrong, but I can't make the numbers work. It doesn't make sense to me. I've posed those questions to ODOT, and we've yet to receive an answer on why the numbers are like they are. Going back to the statewide average rates, you would think they would all be the same, but they're not. Why are we the lowest one when it comes to building this bypass? We'll finish this up with the overview. Like I said, ODOT safety data is inconsistent and misleading. The ODOT and NHTSA data on fatality show US 69 is right at the state average for safety, if not better. And the rationale for spending $100 million on a bypass is based on flawed safety data. What I presented to them, they cannot answer the questions. I gave them my data. They didn't like it. I gave them their data. They can't answer the questions. So in my opinion, it looks like they're trying to build this bypass on flawed safety data. Mr. Miller?
Yeah, so this is, I really want to thank Tyler for putting this together. It has been a lot of work. And the question, he answered a question that we had all along, which was, we've been told that we need to build this bypass for safety reasons, and we all are very much interested in the safety of our citizens, and no more so than the guy who works 100+ traffic accidents, Tyler. So the idea is we've been told this is the most dangerous area that we have to address because of safety, and we tried to figure out why they thought that. And this research has showed that maybe it's not the most dangerous, but they still want to do it anyway. And so that's our problem, is that we've got a $100 million project to bypass our town, and it's not really for safety reasons, and it's going to cost a lot more than the existing plan that they had in place. And so I want to thank Tyler for putting this together. We hope that this is illuminating for the community and for us as we move forward. I think it's also a good time to acknowledge the efforts of many on the council, including the mayor and our state representatives and state senators for the passage of SB 86 recently, to again tell ODOT that they need community input when they make these kinds of decisions. And so this is a report to give you guys information so that you guys understand, have this kind of data that backs up kind of what a lot of us have already thought, which is, sure, it's highways are inherently may have some danger to them, but Highway 69 is not any more dangerous than most other roads, even in Muskogee. So again, if you got questions specifically to the report, Tyler is a fountain of information. I'll let you ask those.
Thank you so much for the report, Tyler. When looking through, I know you've spent a lot of time on this report. In looking through the data, can you see a difference in as far as the north and the south side of Muskogee Street, where they've made improvements in 69 Highway and when there hadn't been improvements in 69 Highway as far as the number of collisions?
The number of collisions, there's not a drastic one. When you really start looking into it, why the wrecks occurred is a good question. The only difference I could see on the south side is, like, so you have the median. On the north side, you don't have a median. So your number of options for crossing 69 on the south side are limited. On the north side, you have Broadway, Oklahoma, Court Street, Denison. You have all those options you can cross. So it may open up, a couple more collisions that would have occurred versus the south, whether you have limited access across, but not a huge difference, no.
Okay.
Tyler, thank you from myself for taking the time and putting in the serious, well thought out effort. I want you to know, in my mind, your efforts alone here literally could be a game changer for the future of Muskogee. That's how important this work is, and we all appreciate it immensely. Great job.
Thank you.
Just to go one step further on that comment, it could be a tremendous help for the state of Oklahoma, not just the city of Muskogee.
Yeah, when you see that one piece of data that you started with the front, when you take 849, I'm probably misquoting the data, but when you take 849 accidents and you immediately knock off that many accidents down to 500, it's huge. But the data doesn't lie. It comes down to it. And it sounds like we just may not be using ODOT's math somewhere in there. So That may be part of the problem.
Accurate data doesn't lie.
Yeah, accurate data doesn't lie, but ODOT's doing some of their own math calculations in there. So
And they can't answer for it.
yeah, they can't answer for it. Do we have any other questions from council? Thank you again so much for your
Thank you,
efforts.
Tyler.
Makes a huge difference in our community. Item number 8.
Consider approval of resolution number 2722, supporting the enactment of Senate Bill 86 and opposing a State Highway 69 bypass, or take other necessary action.
Mayor Colburn and Councilor Coleman.
Take the lead.
Let me say that I want to start this conversation by thanking Mayor Colburn for the effort that he has led to be certain that the proper attention through the proper venues was brought to the issue that we face in terms of having a bypass placed in Muskogee that will be not only a detriment to economic development efforts, but also a detriment to the future of our city in terms of its potential growth. So let me do that now and thank the mayor for all the effort that he led to be certain that it was brought to the proper attention to those people who needed to hear it the most. Let me close my brief remarks by saying that I think as a council and a municipality, we've moved a long way on this conversation to be certain that voices in Muskogee were heard. A lot of times, the perspective of Muskogee is that we're an unknown treasure. This conversation has let us be the leader not only for Muskogee but for the state of Oklahoma, because the legislative efforts that are being led will not only impact Muskogee, but they will impact cities and towns across the state. And I think it's a credit to us as a city, to the mayor and the municipality, that Muskogee is a leader in terms of making certain that all cities and towns are protected. And so I applaud the resolution and its intent to send a clear signal to the powers that be that as a city, we are absolutely opposed to the bypass and in support of the resolutions that were passed by both the Senate and the House of Representatives. And it is our hope with this resolution that the signal goes loud enough that that law or those laws are actually put into place. And I'll yield the floor to Mayor Colburn.
Let me go one step further, and Mr. Coleman, I agree totally with your comments. I think we have brought attention to Muskogee from the standpoint of there being a reasonable option for 69 highway as opposed to the possibility of a bypass. And I want to say thank you to Senator Kim David, to the Oklahoma Municipal League, to Avery Fricks, to George Fott, to Dwayne Pemberton. They all led in this effort to bring forward this bill that was originated by Senator David. So what we're trying to do in this effort would be to collectively show that the 9 of us are in agreement with the bill, which has passed the Senate, has passed the House, and is now waiting on the governor for potential signature. And one scenario was that could be within the next 5 days, but the way the session ended, that probably is going to be a 15 working day period that the governor has to decide on this. So this resolution and your efforts in terms of contacting the governor and say, please sign this for the good of Oklahoma cities that could potentially be bypassed, that would require this economic impact study to be done before something can go on an 8-year plan. So great effort, much appreciative to many, many people, not just these folks that serve us in the legislature, but they have served us well, really, really well. So I would certainly encourage your support, and I would move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, or any other discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
That concludes our normal agenda, and then I have 2 wishing to speak. We have Johnny Taylor. If you would come and give us your address.
My name is Johnny Taylor. I stay on South 24th Street, 110 1106 South 24th Street. I'm here today. I'm kind of like protest against Brad King, where he worked for the city. I got a ticket for parking on the grass, and it was the first day I moved in the house. And so when I parked 2 cars on the grass, I got to back straight into the garage to unload my furniture. So I decided to come down to the city and get my water turned on, changed over, whatever. And me and Brad King, we met here at City Hall. Brad King said, "You buy that house?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Somebody gonna call in on you because you got 2 cars parked on the grass." I told Brad King, I said, "Look here, man, I'm moving in." Okay. I started moving in. A week later, I got a letter from Brad King. Okay. I come talk to him about the letter. I'm going back and try to move some more stuff. I tell him, "Hey, man, I got 2 cars on the grass. Hey, let me move in first." Okay. I started moving in. Then I got another letter from him. That's when I came up to see him and Brad King's boss. And he gave me an okay to keep the cars on the grass and move in. And when I get through moving in, come back up here and talk to him. Okay. I got a ticket. Okay. After I got the ticket, me and Brad King started talking about the ticket. And, you know, like I tell him, Brad King, I said, "Look here, man." I said, "I worked for the city of Muskogee for 33 years. I said, a lot of cars is parked on the grass of Muskogee, got junk in the yard. I said, man, what y'all gonna do about all this junk in these people's yard, especially on my side of town?" Brad King said, "We working with it." Okay, you working with it. So I got the ticket. So if you come down South 24th Street, come across the walking trail, right there at my house, you make a left-hand turn. The second house got a car trailer sitting in the yard. Now I'm looking at Brad King. Brad King knows that trailer's over there, but he tells me that I can't park my 2 trailers in the yard. I got to move and put them on the concrete. I said, okay. I put my cars on concrete, 2-car trailer on concrete. I'm looking at Brad King. Okay, he's circling my house. Okay, he knows that car trailer parked in them people's yard, the second house across the walking trail. And then when he get ready to make a right-hand turn, there's another car trailer is sitting in the yard. Then there's a black car is sitting in the yard on grass. You go back up 24th Street, you go across the walking trail, up by the schoolhouse. Okay, I talked to Brad King. Somebody built a house Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They was through the house. City don't know nothing about it.
Mr.
I
Taylor.
showed Brad King. I said, "Brad King." I said, "What about that house right there?" Brad King said, "I ain't never seen that. That's a 1-room house."
Mr. Taylor,
Huh?
that concludes our time.
Oh.
I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and give him an extra 2 minutes to complete his presentation.
Second.
Got a
So-
motion and a second to extend the time.
So, you know.
Hold on. We need to take a vote. Mr. Taylor, would you hold 1 second, please? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, you have 2 additional minutes.
So, you know, going up the street of 24th Street, Brad King said he didn't know nothing about that house getting built there. Okay. He said he never seen it. It's a 1-room house, no windows, no doors. 2 doors, no windows. You go on up past the schoolhouse. If you stop at a brick building, I asked Brad King about all them cars parked on grass there. Brad King said, "I can't write no ticket out there because somebody at City Hall okayed that for them people to park there." I said, "Okay. What about across the street, Brad King? All them roosters and chickens." Brad King said, "Well, I talked to the guy, whatever. You go on down to the stop sign, you make a left-hand turn, you go 1 block, there's an American flag in front of the house." I asked Brad King about that house. Brad King said, "Yeah, I see all them lawnmowers there. 30 lawnmowers in the yard. 30. He ain't wrote them people out no ticket, you know. And like I say, man, I work for the city of Muskogee for 33 years. And you don't think I don't know what some junk is? I talked to Ivory Van twice about all this junk in Muskogee. And Aaron Rain said, ain't nothing to move. I said, well, I don't understand why come I had to pay a ticket. All the other people got junk all in their yard. You understand? And man, it looks terrible. Look at the north side. It's pitiful, all them cars and stuff. You know, and Brad King, you know, I sit down here in the office with him 2 or 3 times. He go to pointing fingers at the other guys that work for the code enforcement. That's his job, JJ. He ain't doing his work. He ain't doing his work. Hey, why come I got to pay a ticket? All the other people ain't doing their jobs. That's what I don't understand. You understand? But like I say, you know, it doesn't make any sense to me. Of all, you know, to Miriam Muskogee, get in your car and ride down the street and look at how many houses need a roof on them. There's a lot of houses people can't afford a roof. Them houses that the city of Muskogee gonna have to tear down one of these days. They got a man on South 24th Street. You could drop a Volkswagen in his house.
Taylor, that concludes our time.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we have one other wishing to speak, and that's me. Wayne Johnson, 1505 North 16th. And this is regard to bare bones. Do we have time? Timer?
I got a timer on.
Okay. I just want to let something good know that going on in our community is Bare Bones Film Festival. If you have not taken in Bare Bones Film Festival in our community, you have got to take the opportunity to do that. This last week, I took off vacation time to attend the Bare Bones Film Festival. Usually I try to make it, but I really made a conscious effort to do it this year and took off some vacation time to do it. I made 76 films, and there's some cards down there of some of the films that I took. Now, understand, some of these were 3 minutes, some of them were 8 minutes, some of them were an hour and a half, but you're talking 76 films I got to see in our community. From Westerns, the veterans films were phenomenal. Some of the best films you'll see were right here in our community. I had the opportunity of meeting people from India, Australia, from all over the United States, right here in Muskogee. And honestly, we as a community do not support it like we should. We have got we've got so much opportunity in our community right here. And I'm just so thankful for Oscar and Sharon for what we have in our community. And it's right here at the Roxy. We ought to be supporting it. And I appreciate so many of the volunteers that it takes to put on the Bare Bones Film Festival. It was just amazing meeting all the people and being a part of that. And I just wanted to share that experience. And so that's what I wanted to report on. That would conclude our Public Works agenda. Thank you for all attending tonight.